First of all, I'd like to point out that I kind of see a lot of red flags when people try to point out, diversity and increase of this population and that. Well, what about the people that we are disproportionately harming their power? And that is European Americans, white Americans, which means that if you try to have too much favoritism to non-white, that means you are reducing the power of white Americans. And I think they're very vital, and they're still the largest group in the state of Nevada. And the question is about this demographic change. Where is this all headed? Is Nevada going to become 0% white by 2070? And by the way, I want to make this very clear. I'm Iranian descent. Iranians, people from the Middle East and North Africa, are also counted as white. So just think that not all these people have blonde hair and blue eyes. And I'm very concerned about gerrymandering. And I also think that, well, the fact is that I think the elephant in the room is Clark County, where Las Vegas Metro has a one-county monopoly. 75% of the population of the state lives in that county. I think it's time to actually break it up. And by the way, let's make this very clear. If Europeans did not settle this country would have been as great enough that my ancestors and all these other non-whites would have immigrated here in the first place. And like I said, I want to make sure that this is very, very fair. Be wary of these organizations that just testified. I suspect a lot of these people are being paid to come up on the stadium. And not to mention the fact that a lot of these organizations disproportionately benefit non-citizens. And the question is, all we want to ask is, why does Nevada have among the highest non-citizens? A lot of them are not even legally here. A lot of them have children who become U.S. citizens. Why do we have this case? Why do we have these demographics? That's all we ask. We just want to know why. But the way they're hyping this up, well, it raises a lot of red flags. It makes me want to scratch my head. Absolutely. So I believe that European American representation is very, very important. And by the way, speaking of all this diversity, when they say how Nevada is among the most diverse states, California is less diverse than Nevada. And California has a smaller percentage of whites. So we know that, of course, if you increase the non-whites so much, you don't get diversity. What you get is replacement. So a lot of these nice words, be wary of them. But other than that, thank you so much. We appreciate it. And please have fair representation. And keep in mind, European Americans do matter. Thank you.
There's a lot changing in Nevada. I do want to say that the prior caller, seemed like he was out there on some things. I don't see any risk of European Americans being disfranchised. And again, I want to...
caller, please keep your comment.
The members.
Caller, please just keep your comments. We're not going to respond or make comments about other individuals. So please continue. Do we still have the other caller on the line?
Yes, we do, Chair.
Okay.
Caller, please press *6 now to unmute yourself.
Now, in case if you haven't noticed, that was Brittany Miller, one of the so-called largest anti-racist activists out there. She was actually in the town hall meeting, supposedly in the library, where how many of the staff and all of them harassed me and nearly arrested me for no reason. But hey, I got to give it credit to her. She was being fair. Regarding that guy, I really wish that he can actually debate me and talk to me. I actually commented on his Twitter, but he hasn't even responded, so.
Clearly, a lot of this, I think, is just the battle between power. And I feel as if that, first of all, I think we're doing this largely because of population growth. So we have to look into what's causing population growth. I think a lot of this is because of the high cost of California. And, one of the issues is that, we always like to promote only the benefits of diversity, but we see here that all these different ethnic groups, all these different racial groups are always constantly fighting for power. So I really think this is really just a battle, a struggle instead. And I also believe that a lot of this is just secret power grab. We see that more power going to Clark County. We see that the large corporations, they want the population to flood within one county, central control, big money donors, casinos, unions, and so forth. And I just feel like there's something really, really fishy going on. Absolutely. So they have to keep that in mind. But other than that, hopefully the districts are represented well enough. And
diversity is not a strength. It's a source of conflict.
I think it's a strength.
Then why is Mexico not inviting Haitians and Guatemalans and Vietnamese into Mexico to make it more diverse? No. Mexico wishes to remain Mexican. And God bless Mexico for that. I would wish that America remained America. America of the 1950s or 60s, or the 1860s for that matter.
Well, America now means diversity. America means Asians, America means African Americans, Latinos, and non-Hispanic whites.
That is very recent, very recent. As you know, until 1965, we had an immigration policy that was designed specifically to keep the United States majority white.
I want to make this very clear, just in case if you guys don't know, we've seen a significant surge in the black population. And a lot of this, again, is because of the fact that California has experienced gentrification. South LA, Inglewood, Long Beach, Compton, and even other parts of the states like Oakland and Richmond. Keep this in mind. And by the way, I personally wouldn't even be surprised, if a lot of these county commissioners have been pushing Section 8 to basically diversify a lot of these neighborhoods and districts. A lot of is possible. In fact, their poor zoning laws means that you have these lower-end motel apartments like Seagull Suites, you can call them like animals in cages, that are scattered all across the valley. And now look what's going on. You have these pro-Hispanic groups saying, oh yeah, we want 2 majority Hispanic districts. Well, what about 2 white majority Hispanic districts? I mean, they're a larger share of the population. But I don't think they really want that because we know who's going to win those elections. The Europeans are very viable. Keep this in mind. Walk down the Las Vegas Strip. It's predominantly European themed. There's no Persian themed casino or architecture. Think about it. Let's play this. And I know this woman, Ronna McDaniel.
Excuse me. I've sat here today and heard all the different ethnic groups speak about what they want you to draw, how they want you to draw the lines to make their individual districts distinct to their ethnicities. When I look around this audience and at this board, I don't see ethnicities. I'm sorry, I have a bad throat. I see Americans, and all Americans should be represented equally, not divided. Please make your decisions of lines equal to all, not just one ethnic group here and another there. I'd like to be kept in the loop as the lines are drawn. I've been very active in politics my entire life. We must not fall into the trap of segregation again. We did this in the 60s. Let's not go backwards. We must stop the divisiveness that's going on in America and in Nevada. These new maps will last 10 years, which will be detrimental to everyone if you draw the lines by ethnicities and special diversities. Every Nevada citizen deserves to be represented. Those that only want to be identified by their diversity or their ethnicity don't consider everyone that is a citizen. They want to have more privileges and representation than everyone else that isn't in their demographic. Please consider all Nevada citizens when drawing your districts. Let's have Nevada be the first state to draw fair districts. I have over 100 members of my family in Nevada, many ethnicities, and not one of us uses a hyphen in our name. We are all Americans. We are not German Americans, Italian Americans, Black Americans, Norwegian Americans, or any other Americans. We are just Americans. Let's all be Americans and let's all be fair.
Thank you.
Well said. Kudos to her. Of course, I hope that she doesn't get pissed off of what I spoke on the phone. But anyway, I was really doing this because, well, it's just to counter the narratives of identity politics. As you can see right here, we see this huge, huge shift in polarization of views of America. It's just absolutely no coincidence. You can see, obviously, over time, how we have really become, over a very well divided society, where we're more polarized than ever before. One side has really become overly racialized over time. And that is really, really the sad truth that we're living in.
Because it helps reflect how the population has changed over the past 10 years. Earlier this year, the Census Bureau released populations for each state showing Nevada.
Okay, do you even explain why the population actually changes?
Nevada's total population increased by 404,063 residents in the last decade. When we take a closer look, we can see that the Black, Indigenous, and people of color populations led this growth. As is
Wait. What do you mean by indigenous, by the way? Do you mean brown people who basically are originating from south of the border? Is that indigenous? I mean, do you see how they put these really nice labels among people to try to make you feel like, ooh, they're victims, ooh, they're so special? Have you ever noticed that? And of course, again, they need to say black has increased and all that. Well, they don't even tell you, well, why it's increasing. But they say, ooh, we're such victims. Ooh, we're being suppressed and all that. Oh, we have such a voice. Oh, these evil white people are taking away our voice.
Committee may know, Nevada is ranked 5th in the nation with respect to the Latinx share of the population and 4th in the nation with respect to the Asian share of the population. Moreover, Nevada is now the 3rd most diverse.
Okay, well, wait a second. First of all, why do we have these demographics? And second of all, well, why does it really matter about the race? I mean, we're like I've mentioned before, like she has about a couple of minutes ago, the woman who was testifying. Why does it matter what race we are? You see, it's funny because they call me a pro-white advocate, white supremacist, white nationalist, this and that. Yet at the same time, they have their own racial views. They have their own racial consciousness. Think about it. They seem to believe that they're own distinct. So obviously white people are distinct too.
State in the country. Less known but equally important is that the Black population in Nevada increased to over 375,000. That's about 12%. And the Indigenous population increased to over 105,000. That's an increase of over 89%.
Okay, I don't think American Indians increased by 105,000. I don't know where you're getting all this, but 371,000 from blacks. I don't know if that is even really, really true, to be honest with you. I mean, I don't know if there's any part of the country has seen their black percentages increase a lot, that much. So, but I guess a lot of that, like I said, is because people are coming from South LA and moving into Vegas. Well, I guess we know how that's going to turn out for us. Anyway, and then you can see right here, you've got this woman. And again, a lot of these people are paid agitators. They're being paid by their organization, just like the previous one, to shame me, bringing all these false narratives about me. And you can see how they like color their hair to make them feel like they're really, really special. Let's just hear what she has.
Clark County. Since 1980, Nevada has gained 3 additional seats in Congress.
Look at this. They're reading from a script. They're being paid to come up here. And by the way, if they get their own racialized district, that doesn't mean that Democrats are necessarily going to gain more seats. But let's just take a look right here. I don't want to go through all.
Not claim full diversity with our legislature lacking the I in the BIPOC acronym. I've seen firsthand.
BIPOC. How about bipocalypse? Honestly, it's just black, indigenous. They just use all these nice terms like fuzzy wording like Latinx. Which, by the way, I'm not light skin colored. But obviously, I'm not counted under that. Because remember, I am a Caucasoid.
and that tribal communities are being left out of the conversation when it comes to redistricting. To fully represent every Nevadan, there needs to be input from our community.
So we need to segregate tribal communities just like we're doing with the Indian reservations. Is that what you're saying? Is that what you're basically telling me? So basically what you're saying is that also that the districts that they're in, they're not getting any representation. They're being left out. I mean, you just don't want to share. So you really don't want diversity. Then your districts are not diverse. Think of the irony behind all this.
As well. Thank you. Committee members, I assure you that
it's the same people over and over and over again. These are the same people that I was showing you out in the library. It's the same old people. They look at their phones. They don't even like actually get a hard paper copy. Like professionally, they would just look at it. Think about it. And they're not like me that you just heard earlier, where they basically come up with thoughts on their heads or just write it down on a piece of paper with just a few words. And they come up with all the explanations right away.
the Latinx community in Clark County embodies the definition of a community of interest. We share bilingual and bicultural characteristics. Our children attend the same schools. We're employed in the same work sectors, and the community even has culturally and linguistically appropriate nonprofit organizations such as Mi Familia Vota. The redistricting maps.
See, look how they just pronounce it. It's obvious these people are not even assimilating. They don't even really want to assimilate. They just want our resources. That's what it's all about. That's why they're trying to pour into this country. They want to make people like you guys, and then eventually people more like me, Persians, pay higher taxes to support these people. It's absolutely disturbing. Anyway, let's just skip her. Let's just see what she has to say.
%. As for Churchill, Douglas, Lyon, Mineral, Nye, and White Pine, 1 in 10 residents is Latinx. That leaves Eureka.
Representation as far as the outcomes of redistricting that we have. We have the border regions, for example. We have 37% Latinos in the state of Nevada, 0% in the border regions. We have one individual in North
37% Latinos? It just said that it was only 29-30% of the state. They're over-exaggerating the numbers, folks. And seriously, like, if Latinos are so vital to our community, honestly, I want to make this very clear. Why couldn't they do so well in their former countries? Why should we bring them in when they didn't do a good job on their own?
This community needs better resources, and we need proper representation. It is fair, necessary, and logical for Black Nevadans to have an opportunity to.
Now, what all these have in common is that they want to make sure that essentially it's whites that are the problem. Now, keep in mind, of course, you have a lot of white males like Jim Murren that donate heavily to these pro-minority, anti-white politicians. So it's just really a mask in disguise. So if you want to go after the white men who are screwing you up, it's not people like me or many of you watching this video. And just to let you know that just because blacks, or for an example, are going to be gaining representation, that may come at an expense among other non-whites, like Hispanics and Asians. Just absolutely disgusting. You know, keep in mind that Persians don't come up with this same narrative, as far as I know. Now, the problem is Persians don't really get involved in their political process. Yet, on the other hand, the issue, as a result, is a lot of corruption just pretty much could get out of hand.
To elect our leader of choice. State leaders make the decisions and influence policies that impact our daily lives.
Districts 8, 9, 35, and 41, where AAPI residents now represent approximately 30% of voters in each of those districts. These assembly districts are in close proximity, with the AAPI population concentrated enough throughout to create a reasonably compact assembly district.
You know, the more you do this kind of stuff, the really sad, disgusting part about it is that you're discouraging more and more people to believe that increasing non-whites, whatever group, the AAPI, whatever you want to call it, is not necessarily going to be a good thing, because a lot of people see that their power, which is particularly the power that's given to whites, the influence, is going to shrink. So it's obvious why people are going to be opposed to massive immigration and demographic change. And this is why perhaps we have to consider breaking up the country. I mean, the fact is that this republic was established by Nordic, Anglo-Saxon, Celtic, Europeans, Protestants. Our Constitution, frankly, a lot of those freedoms comes from the Persian Cyrus the Great. But anyway, these people, they could not build a society as great. And now they think, ooh, they want extra privileges, and they want to make sure that they have districts of their own, and they want to change our laws. Think about it. But yet these people, a lot of them come from failed societies. Think about it. And they expect you to just bow down to them like they're somehow like, we treat them like their majesty or something. It's just disgusting, folks. This is one of the reasons why this country needs to break up.
That makes the AAPI vote outcome determinative. You've heard from our friends at ACDC that there is...
And by the way, ACDC, I wouldn't be surprised if they're funded by wealthy elites, and that could be the communist Chinese. You absolutely never know. Soros, all these people, they're dangerous. Anyway, I can't take care of more of this garbage. You guys really need to stand up to this. And by the way, these organizations are going to be in serious trouble, because we know the you-know-what shots, the truth is going to be revealed, the reality is going to come from this, and a lot of these organizations, along with these politicians and large corporations, they're all going to be in trouble. The truth is going to be coming out, and before you know it, things are going to really, really change, and it's going to really suck a lot of things like a tornado.